The Hollywood night was a velvet blanket studded with diamonds. But inside the Dolby Theater, the air was a buzzing cocktail of ozone, expensive perfume, and raw, unvarnished ambition. It was the stage for Jimmy Kimmel Live. A universe of bubblegum pink walls and forced bonhomie. A place where the machinery of celebrity was oiled with self-deprecating jokes and carefully curated revelations. The guest couch, a plush island under the glare of 100 lights, was currently occupied by a man who was less a person and more a national monument. Sylvester Stallone, encased in a cream-colored suit that strained at its heroic seams, sat with the weary grandeur of a retired gladiator. At 77, his face was a topographic map of an epic life. Each line and crease a story of Rocky Balboa's grit and John Rambo's pain. The interview had begun in the well-worn grooves of nostalgia. Kimmel, the affable king of this pastel kingdom, was in his element, trading on a faux friendship built over decades of promotional tours. They talked about the old days, about Sly's incredible comeback with the Creed franchise, about the physical toll of a lifetime of on-screen brawling. Stallone was playing his part, the amiable legend, his voice a familiar gravelly rumble, his famous lisp softening his words into a kind of poetic mumble. He joked about his hearing, his memory, the indignities of age. The audience ate it up. It was safe. It was warm. It was television. Then, Kimmel, sensing the need to shift from gentle nostalgia to something with more edge, took a sharp turn. A producer's voice, a sly whisper in his ear, had given him the cue. The painting. Ask him about the painting. So Sly, Kimmel began, leaning forward with a conspiratorial grin that didn't quite reach his eyes. I have to ask you about something I heard. A story that's become Hollywood legend. And I've got to be honest, it's a little dark. He paused for effect, letting the audience lean in. The painting, the one you had done of yourself as the Roman god Neptune. I've seen the photos. It's a lot of you, my friend. Trident, the waves, the everything. Rumor has it you were so, let's say, displeased with how it turned out, that you took a knife and stabbed it, repeatedly. Is that true? Did you really go full Norman Bates on a portrait of yourself? The audience erupted in a wave of nervous laughter. It was a classic Kimmel move, affectionate ribbing that carried the sharp sting of mockery. Stallone's easy smile tightened. The light in his eyes, once warm and reminiscing, cooled by several degrees. He shifted in his seat, the suit jacket pulling across his shoulders. That's an old story, Jimmy, he rumbled, waving a dismissive hand, a hand that had thrown countless cinematic punches. An artist's vision. Sometimes it doesn't align with your own. You move on, but Kimmel, smelling blood in the water, pressed. He was a terrier with a joke. Come on, you gotta give us more than that. I mean, this is the kind of thing that defines a legacy. Sylvester Stallone, action hero, Oscar nominee, legend. An art critic so harsh he literally stabs his work. The audience laughed again, louder this time. What was it? The nose? Was the trident not big enough? Were the abs not quite Rocky the Fourth enough? He was turning Stallone into a punchline. Reducing a lifetime of intense, often manic self-mythologizing into a late-night gag. The subtext was clear. Look at the funny, vain old man. Stallone's jaw, a piece of granite that had defined a generation of masculinity, clenched. The affable mask was slipping, revealing the fierce, proud, and deeply sensitive artist beneath. It was a private moment, he said, his voice gaining a hard edge. It's not a joke. Oh, I think it is. Kimmel chirped, oblivious or perhaps too committed to the bit. I think it's hilarious. I mean, the image alone. Sly, in his mansion, raging against the canvas because it didn't capture his godlike essence. It's almost a scene from a Rocky movie. The villain is bad art. The laughter was raucous now. They were with Kimmel. They were laughing at the legend. That was the breaking point. Stallone slowly placed his hands on his knees, the movement deliberate and heavy with intent. The studio grew quiet, the laughter dying in people's throats, the air crackled with a new, dangerous energy. You think this is funny, Jimmy? Stallone's voice was low, but it cut through the room like a whip. You think my life, my struggles, my attempts to create something, to leave something beautiful behind, you think they're a punchline for your show? Kimmel's smile finally faltered. He held up his hands in a whoa, easy gesture. Sly, come on, it's all in good fun. We're just teasing. Teasing. Stallone repeated, the word dripping with contempt. He stood up. It wasn't the swift, angry rise of a young man. It was the slow, monumental ascent of a mountain. He seemed to tower over the set, the pink walls suddenly seeming childish and absurd behind him. You sit in this dollhouse, he growled, sweeping a hand to encompass the entire studio, and you make jokes. You have built a career, a very successful one, on teasing. On taking the hard-won battles of others and sanding them down into little jokes for people to swallow with their bedtime milk. He took a step towards Kimmel's desk. The band had stopped playing. The stage manager was frozen. You want to know about the painting? Stallone's voice rose, echoing with the raw emotional power he'd brought to 100 movie climaxes. It was about failure. It was about looking at something that was supposed to be a masterpiece, a testament, and seeing only the flaws, seeing the gap between the dream and the reality. That is a pain you will never understand because you don't dream, Jimmy, you comment. You are a tourist in other people's passions, and you take snapshots and sell them as postcards. Kimmel was pale. Sly, that's not fair. Fair? Stallone roared, and the studio audience jumped as one. You want to talk about fair? You went after my friend Arnold for years. You've made jokes about my family. You've built your empire on the bones of other people's pride. But this was mine, a private failure, a moment of weakness. And you dragged it out here to make your audience giggle. You went too far, Jimmy. You always go too far, but this time, you went too far. The words hung in the air, final and devastating. Stallone stood there, chest heaving, a lifetime of being the butt of jokes, of being called the Italian stallion as both a compliment and an insult, of having his artistic ambitions mocked, all culminating in this single, seismic moment.